3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell, who looks resplendent today in his Hawaiian short sleeve button down.
That is an AP English word if I've ever heard
Thank you very much.
Resplendent.
Yeah, I did okay in English. I'm an English and history kind of guy.
I am too. I'm a man of the humanities.
Math and science, not so much. Yeah, I don't care too much about humanity.
Right.
I care about me.
I care about the study of humanity.
And a select few others, but beyond that. No, it's very now, and maybe you are responsible for the sun finally coming out in Columbia for the first time in nearly a week.
See, my man Leo Baldwin from B1067, when he saw me dressed today, he said, "I see you trying to will the sunshine out. I respect that." I said, "Well, it's going to happen." And then I told him, "Leo, here's some good life advice for you. Every day's the beach if you bring the sand."
Oh, look at that! Wow,
it's an Elijah Campbell.
You know what? You know what?
I'll put that on a T-shirt.
Do we have a best of show? Because I think that right there, I don't want to.
I said we just loop that.
Yeah, I don't want to talk that today.
Yeah,
I can't.
We can just loop that.
I mean, I thought a few weeks ago we gave the kids some advice, but that pales in comparison to what you just did.
Yeah,
Whew. Strong.
Every day, powerful.
I need that today too. I think for a couple of generations worth of comedians in our nation, and perhaps in other nations, I'm not so well versed in, the comedic vibes of Western Europe or other, industrialized countries. But for generations, the local DMV office has provided great fodder for humor for various reasons.
Forever.
And today, I for the first time in a long time, fell prey to the DMV. Apparently, the entire computer system of the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles crashed.
You know what happened, right?
Well,
the hamster in the back that was running on the wheel to keep it all together passed away unexpectedly. And it's not easy to get a hamster on short notice.
Well, I have a friend. I have a lot of friends. That's good. But I have one particular friend who works in one of the higher levels of government. I won't say at the top, but anyway. And I just jokingly texted him and said, "Hey, whose rear end can you kick to get this thing moving for me and I would assume thousands of others all across the state?" Because again, this was just not the Shop Road location where I happened to go this morning. Statewide. And they were making certain, to their credit, they were making certain to tell us repeatedly, all the people that were coming in routinely, it's statewide. So you can't go to the one on Decker or don't go to the one wherever. Like they're all, it's a thing. Okay. But that friend in state government texted me and said it's the same system. For those of you who are old enough, and a great movie from the mid-'80s, before I guess right before Ferris Bueller, War Games with Matthew Broderick, about an early computer system going awry and ultimately potentially ruining, to use the word again, humanity. And so I texted back, and again, that's a 40-something-year-old film now, and I said, "Yeah, I thought I saw Matthew Broderick back there trying to fix something, but
game's changed a little bit.
Yeah, but no, apparently the system is old and has these things happen from time to time. So hopefully maybe the legislature had said that there's some extra funding from time to time for stuff.
Like a rainy day fund, if you will?
I'd look into that, legislature.
If it's a rainy day fund, let me tell you.
Just to keep things moving. But I needed to go. I had all my stuff for the new Real ID, which apparently a lot of us still need. And by a lot of us, it feels like
all
of us.
Yeah, like I need it. Yes. Anyway,
and I don't know what type of search you may be subject to. So I would prefer to do this the way they'd like me to do it, as opposed to the way I would not like to have it done. Does that make sense?
That does.
Good. But I was there about 2 hours. Nice people. Got one part of the process completed that didn't need a computer. Basically, the eye test again. I had to do the eye test and prove that I am me. And a very nice lady helped me out, and there were very nice people that were working there, and they were very apologetic, and they listened. They would rather be doing stuff, too, than everybody just kind of hanging out. But after 2 hours, I was like, you know what? I got a job. So
Got stuff I got to do.
That was how I spent my morning. Yeah. So I could use to come back around to the point, coming in here with you on Now the Sun is Out, a nice bright shirt. It just, it changes the mood for the better. So that's good. So I appreciate you.
Bring the sand.
We got a lot to get to today. Good news, Braves fans. Ronald Acuna will make his first rehab start for the Braves. Yeah. I think it's a rookie league team. It's now called like the Florida something. It used to be the old Gulf Coast League. I don't know what it's called now. Florida something league. I don't know. But it's not the Florida State League. It's not the high A Florida State League minor league. It's not that. It's more like the extended spring training league, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But he'll be making his first start tonight down there for them, or at some point today. I don't know if they play day games or night games.
Morning games, that'd be cool.
Well, you know what? In some retirement communities in Florida, they might, man.
Get the folks out there.
11 a.m., come on out. Enjoy the ballpark. I would actually.
After you hit up Cracker Barrel.
I'm down with that. Hey, if that's my morning.
That's an incredible
Go get me some pancakes and bacon at Cracker Barrel, a couple of eggs, head over to the ballpark, watch some future big leaguers, hopefully. Enjoy the Florida sunshine. And by 3 o'clock, I'm home watching Wheel of Fortune and having a nap. That's a day, my man.
Oh, hey, dude. The day after my 21st birthday, I was in St. Augustine. We went to a spring training game. We got to see, Nationals and Astros at like 11 a.m. Very early.
Yeah.
Ballpark beer.
Yeah.
Not feeling too great from the night before. Got to enjoy some baseball.
Little hair of the dog on there.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah. And then, we got to have some fun there. Go get back to where we were staying at like 4 o'clock. Man, I fell back asleep for 3 hours, ready to roll.
That's nice.
7 o'clock.
That's a day.
Again.
That's a day.
It's a fun day.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Not at all. But that's out there. Okay. I'm not typically a conspiracy theorist. And I have told you, my loyal audience, for many years that even as I get older, I do all I can. I mean this. I really do. And I think you can vouch for me. I do all I can not to get cynical. I don't want to be a cynic. Now, sometimes circumstances in life just smack you upside the head.
You're left with no choice.
And cynicism is just what's left. That's the scar, right? I don't think that the Dallas Mavericks won the NBA draft lottery last night. I just don't.
You think they were done a solid?
I think they were. I think it went down something like this. And y'all can call me crazy, and I probably am. We know that the Dallas Mavericks traded away one of the most popular players and most productive players, quite literally, on planet Earth earlier this season. And they did so in great secrecy, supposedly, to the most popular franchise of professional basketball on planet Earth, who was in desperate need of a young superstar because their aging superstar, who has won a title with them and is still productive, is now 40-plus years old. And the Mavericks were allowed to be roasted by all involved, even if you did pick up AD. This is not an equal trade. What are you thinking? How could you do this? He's been with you for 10 years. This is all he knows. And then you flash forward to last night's draft lottery where the Dallas Mavericks had a 1.8% chance to win the thing, whereas multiple teams had double-digit percentage chances to win. And Dallas wins. Or wins. So I think the NBA said, hey, Mavericks, thank you for trading him, Luka, to the Lakers, our most popular team. They needed it. You needed that financial burden lifted from you as well. So we understand. And here's the solid back. Now you can go draft Cooper Flagg or use this number 1 pick in any way you see fit, like maybe trading it to the Milwaukee Bucks in an effort to get Giannis to come to Dallas. Sincerely, Adam Silver. So, yes, I know that sounds crazy.
Tell your fans I said you're welcome.
But that's just what it feels like, man. Of all the teams, really, of all
It felt wrong.
The teams.
It felt wrong that a team that sabotaged itself into missing the playoffs by having to play a play-in game and then getting just waxed in the play-in game, like didn't belong in that play-in tournament and looked like a team that did not belong in that play-in tournament, did everything the wrong way and fell rear backwards into Cooper Flag. Like, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate for, to use our word of the segment, humanity.
Yeah. My mom used to say bass-ackwards because my mom didn't like to use bad words.
Well, they fell bass-ackwards into Cooper Flag.
That's right. So, sorry, kids, but I'm leaning towards cynicism and conspiracy theory when I really don't want to.
It's so hard not to. I'm like you, where I'm not really big into the conspiracy theory. I'm not really big into anything of that sort. Like, I don't think the fix was in for the Los Angeles Lakers to beat the Kings in the early 2000s to get to the NBA Finals. I think they just had Kobe and Shaq, and there was some bad officiating because there's bad officiating in every sport. I've maybe over the years have talked myself into the Patrick Ewing lottery, the frozen envelope.
I've
talked myself into that one, but for the most part,
same thing, man. New York needed a superstar.
I am one of those that buys heavily into the Occam's razor school of thinking. Whatever your simplest explanation is the most logical and more than likely it. Yeah. Well, when I, look myself in the mirror, I'm like, what is the simplest explanation as to why the Dallas Mavericks got this pick? That actually is where my brain goes to as the simplest explanation. Not they were
lucky
1.8% chance. Yeah. And sometimes it's not zero. So there's a likelihood for it to happen. That felt wrong. It feels so wrong for them to be number one, especially considering the teams with the 4 highest percentage chances to be the lottery winner. 3 out of those 4 teams, 3 of them were not in the top 4. Yeah. The New Orleans Pelicans, Jay Phillips, are picking 7th.
Right.
7th. What did the Pelicans do to the NBA to deserve this?
I'm nearly equally convinced that the NBA is perfectly fine with those clubs, maybe minus the Jazz, continuing to be the bottom feeders. Because guess what? Historically, they are. The Wizards.
The Wizards don't need the NBA's help being bad.
The Hornets.
The Hornets don't need the NBA's help.
And remember,
being
the
bad.
Pelicans are technically the Hornets.
They are.
It's the Hornets times 2.
It's the cousin.
Yeah.
Same family tree, baby.
So, just saying. So, again, if you think I'm crazy, that's cool. I probably am. But when I saw that, I was like, you gotta be bleeping me, man. No. Yeah, that's all I did. I saw. I was like, nope. But anyway, that's where it is. We got some interesting Gamecock news to tell you about. It's not on field, but we'll give you a little bit of an announcement that came out today as it relates to the future of Williams-Brice Stadium. And coming up in about 15 minutes, our buddy Mitch Light covering the SEC for the Athletic, football, and baseball. We'll spend time talking baseball with him as the conference enters the final week of the regular season, and certainly for South Carolina fans, you feel like it's just nearly done. What comes next? We'll get into all of that with Mitch coming up in a little bit. 803-404-6100 for you to be a part of the program. And Elijah has some really fun interactivity planned for you and me later in the program. It's the Tuesday Postgame Show. Speaking of Palmetto Citizens, they are ready to help you and your family with any and all of your banking needs, including an ability to be rewarded for for saving more money. Check out palmettocitizens.org and learn how you can do that. Maybe you are ready to make some improvements around the house. Love where you live, got some equity built up. Take advantage of the Palmetto Citizens Equity Line of Credit. Open it up. You can establish it for a 10-year draw period. Maybe get the kitchen done now, a bedroom or bathroom later, maybe a deck or a pool. Hey, your equity, your money, you use it, and do it all for lower rates and fewer fees. That's right. You can do it better and cheaper than you can with the big banks because Palmetto Citizens is not for profit. They are members only, and they've been serving this community, the Midlands of South Carolina, since the 1930s. My wife and I are members. Love what they've done for us. I think you will, too. 14 convenient locations, great people working in there, and apply and learn more online for any of what they do at palmettocitizens.org. Nineteen minutes after 3 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Mitch Light of The Athletic joining us coming up in just a little bit. Couple of announcements today. One by ESPN. The other is related to the Gamecocks. They both are about football. First off, Carolina, Virginia Tech is now known as a 3 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, August 31 at the Dome in downtown Atlanta. 3 p.m. Many of you are going to be heading over. There's a game there Saturday afternoon as well between Syracuse and Tennessee. Luckily, they don't wear quite the same shade of orange.
But there's going to be a lot of orange.
Yeah, that's a day to avoid, to be honest with you.
Lot of orange.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That just means if you go to the game and you wear like a red shirt, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. You'll be easy to spot on TV.
Sure. Well, unless people are they're like partial colorblind, and you're like, I can't.
Well, then you blend in. Yeah.
Also announced Alabama at Florida State Saturday the 30th at 3:30, and LSU hosting Clemson on Saturday night at 7:30.
Under the lights.
Yeah, or sorry, Clemson at LSU. Sorry, right? No, LSU
at Clemson. Yeah,
LSU at Clemson. Yeah, I got it there. Sorry, had to look down there twice. LSU at Clemson Saturday at 7:30.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm really glad Carolina Virginia Tech is in the dome.
Yes, absolutely. It's a beautiful dome. I'm so pumped.
It's a great stadium, but it's August in Atlanta, or just August in the South.
Hot everywhere.
Yeah, Bama, Florida State. Ooh.
Oh, they bring those big old fans on the sideline, like a bunch of them.
And it's not exactly cool in Clemson even at night.
No. Again.
In August. But there you go. The other announcement made today, and this may intrigue you, it may not, as we all learn more, and I'll go ahead and tell you, I've already reached out to try and get someone on to discuss this. But today, the University of South Carolina announced a partnership with a company called Legends. Legends is quite literally a global company they really do a lot of things. It's kind of hard to I'll tell you, they say this about themselves. Legends is the industry leader in elevating the fan experience and creating unforgettable moments. This is from Jeremiah Donati. Their expertise will not only enhance how our fans engage with Carolina athletics, but also drive critical revenue to support our student athletes and strengthen our pursuit of championships. I've looked at their website. I had heard of them before. Like I say, they are quite literally global. They have offices in Europe. They have offices in North America. I think they might even have some, in the Far East. If not, they've done things over there. But they will, I think, come in and attempt to elevate the experience that you're having at the game. Now, they can't do much about the football. Right? That's Shane's job.
Yeah, we already have people hired for that.
But and I think going to Williams-Brice, we all have tipped our cap of late to say, hey, it's a better experience in the ballpark than that maybe it's ever been. And if you couple that with winning, it's obviously fantastic. But I think when it comes to the new premium seating spaces, Legends will take over those enhancements. Legends is going to help with some forms of fundraising. You and I were joking because it talked about philanthropic fundraising. And what I would think they will be doing, and a little bit of this is serious and a little bit of this I'm kidding. I told Elijah, if Elijah wants to give some money, it can be like the Elijah Campbell media lunchroom. And there'll be a picture of Elijah and a big nameplate on there and probably him holding a sandwich.
Or the Rocky Mountain oysters from when we were at Columbia Craft.
They probably aren't going to serve those, but if that's the picture you want to use, hey, you gave the money,
Yeah, I could do whatever I want there.
Yeah, you gave the money. And I don't know, so please don't anybody go say, I heard Jay Phillips say they were going to do this. But, a lot of places in an effort to connect you to the place while at the same time raising money to support the place, they'll do like the brick walkways where you or your family or, whatever. And
have a brick.
Yeah, tons of places do that. I was telling, I did it at my high school. My family bought a couple on the bridge at Riverbanks. I think one of them had one of our dogs, names on there, just like, hey, why not? And places do this all the time. So again, I'm not telling you they're going to do that. I will ultimately ask. But when I see philanthropic fundraising for what is otherwise, this kind of project, I'm figuring it's things like that. And I think they do merchandising. I think they help with menus, and there's a whole host of things that this company will do. But taking and they've got a lot of school. Hold on, I'll tell you just a few. Kansas, Maryland, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Southern Cal, Wisconsin, Villanova, San Diego State. There's more, but that's some big ones.
They do a lot of concert venues and stuff too now, because we talked about this morning. I was like, why does Legends sound so familiar? So I used to work with people at Legends when I was working as a security guard at some music venues in Nashville. I would work with them pretty regularly to let them in too. Certain parts of the venue, they did a lot of catering. They helped with a lot of the catering stuff, a lot of the VIP stuff they were usually involved in.
I'll read you this. This is from their college division website. Whether it's advising on a new stadium or renovation project, developing and executing the ultimate menu for the game, or designing and selling the T-shirt that fans wear when they fill stadiums, we touch most of the ways fans and consumers engage with colleges and universities. Legends College is focused on creating the ultimate fan experience and helping our partners drive transformational revenue during this ever-changing time in college athletics. So, again, I've reached out to the athletics department to get, hopefully we're going to be getting Jeremiah Donati on the program again soon, and I have asked them to help facilitate someone from Legends, maybe somebody on the team that will be working more directly with Carolina, to come join Elijah and me and just tell us what's up. Like, some examples of things that we can look forward to. And most of this is going to start in terms of construction and renovation and things like that on Williams-Brice after the Clemson game. So, not yet. I don't know if they'll be busting anything out. Unless, of course, if Elijah wants to go ahead and pay for the Elijah Campbell immediate lunchroom or just a table.
I'll would love to at least do like a brick or a table or something where, it's the Amanda Hug and Kiss table.
That's right.
Or come up with a fake name to put in there.
Sure.
Don't need my name on everything, but.
No, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but what's a cafeteria or a room where people are eating if there's not a couple laughs in there? So.
I like it. So there you go. You can learn more about this on your own if you'd like to at GamecocksOnline.com. Time out here. Mitch Light, our buddy from The Athletic, covering college football and college baseball. It's baseball season. That's what we'll talk about. What does he see from afar when it comes to the Gamecock program, how it's fitting into a new SEC, that and more with Mitch Light of The Athletic when the postgame show returns. Time to talk some Gamecock baseball, some SEC baseball, a quick look at the national scene as well. Our buddy Mitch Light is back with us on the beat for The Athletic. Always appreciate his time. Good to have you, sir. I'm just going to jump right in here because, as you well know, it's not good around Columbia, South Carolina when it comes to college baseball. You also know how proud this program is in a relative and historical sense. I guess I want to start you being, a few hours away. What's the perception of Gamecock baseball right now, Mitch? And what are people saying about how this program, which was, just about a year ago, still poised to be a host in the NCAA tournament, now looking at its worst record ever in conference baseball? How did it get here so quickly? What are you hearing from afar?
Yeah, obviously, master of the obvious. Did I say obviously master of the obvious? That's not very good. Good thing I'm not an editor for a living or anything like that.
English.
It's not. Yeah, it's not ideal. And there's like the way we spent most of this college baseball season talking about how bad Missouri was, historically bad, 0-24, getting run ruled every week. And I kind of said South Carolina is a team that's having a bad year, but not fair to group them with Missouri. The RPI reflected that. They were competitive for some parts of the first half of the season. I'm not saying they were as good as Auburn last year, but Auburn went 5-25, I believe, in the SEC last year, lost a lot of close games. But then that argument kind of goes away in the last couple of weeks. Just the way they've lost those games, 22-3 against Florida. I was driving home, picked my son up at college last Thursday. He was driving home. I was checking scores, and I saw the Auburn score Thursday night. I was like, oh, my, that is not good. So obviously, you guys know this. It's a proud program that's won multiple national championships. And this might not be fair. The landscape's changed a lot over the last decade. When South Carolina was at its peak, teams were trying to be good at college baseball, but there wasn't the league-wide commitment that there is now. With the paying of the coaches, the salaries, and obviously the paying of the players now. So there's more teams fighting for that elite spot. And if you fall back a half a step or a full step, you're gonna lose a lot of games because teams are getting better if you're not getting better. So going to the season, we knew this wasn't a great roster. Knew they've had some injuries, but it's just not a great situation when you're playing this poorly down the stretch. Especially when you look at Missouri, a team that was 0-24, and they go to College Station, show a lot of fight, win 3 games. So there's no short-term answer. There could be a short-term answer, I guess, with a coaching change, but that is a very difficult decision the administration is going to have to make.
And you mentioned Auburn, too, and I've been kind of fascinated with how they've turned things around. They did so by keeping the coach, and they made a lot of adjustments with the roster. But I looked at a lot of stats from last year, just comparing like last year's Auburn team and this year's Carolina team in SEC play. Auburn had a significantly better ERA, but they had the same team batting average. They're similar in home runs. Auburn walked a lot more batters, and they hit the exact same amount of batters. And, of course, that Auburn team had a few more games underneath their belt than this Carolina team does going into the LSU game. But when you look at what Auburn's been able to do in one short year, what do you think South Carolina, I guess, can do something similar with in terms of just trying to get this thing turned around, assuming they have a similar coaching staff?
Yeah, so Auburn has some great freshmen. They had a great freshman class coming in. And I'm sure I don't think Butch Thompson was really on the hot seat, but I'm sure that was part of the equation. They knew that. Now, in college baseball, you never know how many of those freshmen you're going to get. You don't want your freshmen to be that good or your signees to be that good that they skyrocket up the draft boards, because then you're going to lose them. But they are a young team that is showing a lot of promise for the future. As you guys know, we live in a world with the transfer portal era where there can be quick turnarounds. That is a very positive thing. It's a year-to-year thing. So if there is a financial commitment in the NIL space, things can turn around. But the problem is the gap is the talent gap with that Auburn team and the rest of the league wasn't as great as the talent gap that South Carolina is facing right now. But also, you don't have to be that vastly improved. Let's say they improve the talent by 30%. I'm making up a number, and just play better baseball. You can make the tournament at 13-17, maybe 12-18 if you have the right 12 wins. Then that's a step in the positive in a positive direction. So They just need good things to happen next year if the coaching staff is back. If the coaching staff isn't back, then we'll see a complete roster overhaul, and you just never know what you're going to get.
Mitch Light of The Athletic is with us. Mitch, let me ask you, would you, and again, this is an opinion thing for you more than anything, but you mentioned when you go back to where Carolina was when they were winning championships and played for 3 straight, there wasn't as much of the financial commitment across the conference. Is there a feeling, perhaps, in those that you've spoken with, that South Carolina allowed this to happen by not, my words here, fully funding the program relative to what we've now seen, certainly at A&M or what's happening in Knoxville, places like that, even Georgia, Kentucky making the World Series? Is it just that Carolina said, we've been doing fine the way we've been doing it, and then you realize, oops, that ain't working?
I'm always reluctant to speak too much on NIL because we just don't know. Especially in college football, it's like you hear all these outrageous numbers, and I hear the numbers too for baseball. I think it's fair to say that the financial commitment for South Carolina baseball is not where it needs to be, especially compared to those teams you mentioned, the Texas A&Ms of the world, Tennessee. I talked to Kevin O'Sullivan for a story in the offseason. He said he finally felt that last offseason they could be competitive in the portal space. And that's a program that's been at the top of the sport in recent years, and their coach didn't even feel like his school was being competitive up until this past summer. So there's different degrees. And again, we're just kind of speculating here, but there's the Tennessee, A&M, LSU taking some big swings on some future first-round draft picks. And then you can piece together if you've got some nice financial packages and plug some holes and go get the mid-major guy and plug him into your rotation. There's plenty of examples of SEC teams improving their roster through the transfer portal without necessarily taking the huge swings. Vanderbilt has 2 of its 3 weekend starters are transfers. One's from Dayton, one's from Georgetown. I don't know how much money they got, but we're not talking huge money here. So you can improve your roster without spending a ton of money.
Yeah, we kind of want to pivot, to Vanderbilt a little bit, too, as we talk about the rest of the college baseball landscape. And that's one I found interesting because they've taken a dip, right, over the past couple of years after, I guess, that last championship. But this year, they're one of the hottest teams in the sport right now. Taking 2 or 3 from Tennessee on the road, obviously, is a big deal to them because of what that rivalry is. But their RPI is really good. They're really turning a corner right now, too. Do you kind of look at this Vanderbilt team as a legit title contender under Coach Corbin?
It's interesting you say that, Elijah. I'm not going to push back on the fact that they've taken a dip. But people forget that 2 years ago, this team was a national seed. They were the number 6 overall national seed. Now, they lost to Oregon. They did not get out of their region, and that's really all that matters, going to super regionals. So they have not played in the super regional since going to the national championship series in 2021. But to answer your question, this is a very interesting team. It's not – you look at the numbers, which I'm sure you have when you're looking at South Carolina stuff. They are at near the bottom of the league in most offensive categories. They play very good defense. They pitch very well. They have good bullpen depth, and they've actually shown a lot more power in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that maybe the last month. That gives me the belief that this team can make a deep run because they are showing some power in the middle of the lineup, which they didn't have earlier. They're going to continue to play defense and good pitching. They play very well at home. So if they can secure a national seed, I think Vanderbilt would be one of those teams you could expect to get to Omaha.
Talking to Mitch Light of The Athletic, getting a few thoughts in on what's going on around the SEC and all of college baseball. Yeah, you just mentioned national seeds. Your publications rankings right now have in the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the Southeastern Conference. Oregon is in there out of the Big Ten, which is interesting for the Big Ten because it's Oregon. That's another story, Mitch.
Right.
And North Carolina is in there, as is Florida State. I don't think the SEC they're not going to get all of them, but 5 sound about right in some form or fashion for the SEC?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be interesting to see what the appetite of the selection committee is for how much they want to reward the SEC. And I get it. It's not healthy for the sport to have 7 SEC national seeds. But you got to look at the numbers. You got to look at the teams there. And it's interesting. There's going to be so much jockeying in this final weekend and then in Hoover because just for instance, you took at Georgia, Auburn, and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt swept Georgia. Georgia swept Auburn. Auburn beat Vanderbilt in the series there. So it's hard to play that head-to-head game there. And then Arkansas, which has lost, I believe, 4 of its last 5 series, they swept Vanderbilt in Nashville. And it's just like we've only got a weekend to go, but I still think there's going to be a lot to sort out. And the committee we know leans heavily on RPI, probably more than any other committee, like than the basketball committee leans on net there. So, but Jay, to specifically answer your question, I think 5 or 6 is probably what we're looking at for national seeds.
And when you look at the RPI too, I mean, obviously this is a committee that relies heavily on this, historically speaking. 7, I believe, of the top 10 teams are SEC teams. Then you go to the next 10, a lot more SEC there as well. You have to pick one non-SEC team to tag as your team to win the College World Series. You only get one. Who do you choose?
I would say Florida State, probably a cop-out because they're, one of the higher-ranked ones. But I like their starting pitching. Jamie Arnold, is one of the best. And once you get deeper into the postseason, you get to Omaha and the days off, your bullpen does not need to be as deep. So I think I would go Florida State. I'm a big Link Jarrett fan. Just look at his resume. Took Notre Dame to College World Series, beat that great Tennessee team. So I'd like to be a little more creative. I probably would have said Clemson if we were talking about a month ago. Even though I probably shouldn't say Clemson and Columbia, but I'll go Florida State.
Yeah, fans around here aren't going to mind that you didn't too much. Yeah, I like what Link is doing too, and it's crazy. For all those years that Coach Martin got him down there and couldn't win, will Link be the guy in a relatively short amount of time to get it done? But they've got a good program. Great stuff as always, sir. Now the son in college not done yet, right? Just done for the year.
Done. Junior at Wake Forest, and so he's home for the summer. If you're in Nashville and you need to rent a kayak, he works for a kayak rental company, so I can give you a good name. I can give you a recommendation.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll pass those.
I know. I can see Elijah's hair flowing in the wind going down the Cumberland River in a kayak.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I need that like I need air.
Check him out. Just check him out on the YouTube page today. He's looking very summer for mid-May. So he's doing his part. He's doing his part.
I love it.
Mitch, appreciate it, man. Good stuff. That's Mitch Light of The Athletic. Check his work there all the time. And you very simply Mitch Light on Twitter. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you on this Tuesday. Coming up next hour, Elijah's got a couple of poll questions running. We'll tell you about those, including including how you guys feel about the potential of growth in SEC football. Right? Yeah, that's one of them. I'll reiterate how I feel next hour on that, and some information from a couple of mocks on Colin. That's Colin Murray Boyles. We're tight, so I can.
Yeah, you just know first name basis.
Sure.
I was calling him CMB.
That's right. Thanks again to Mitch Light for joining us and just giving us some of his perspective as the Athletics college baseball writer, and he primarily covers the Southeastern Conference. I mean, he's based in Nashville, so that's his area of expertise. But he does the whole country. But I just think there are things that he said about Carolina that and that's why I don't want to say I pushed him. I mean, he's a guest, but I just, you look around, and you and I have discussed this. Like, could Carolina look itself in the mirror and say, yeah, we're doing everything we can? Because I'm not so sure. And again, when you see a Kentucky, and I know this sounds like I'm dogging on Kentucky. I'm not. I like what Nick Mingione has done. I think he's got a very vibrant personality. I can easily see why when he's out on the trail that kids want to come play for him.
They do play a fun style of baseball.
Yeah. I mean,
kids love stealing bases.
Yeah.
They love hitting and running.
He's bringing some, and he's going out and getting the kids that fit it and that want it. Again, you may not like Tony Vitello, but the right kind of kid does. And now he's not only delivered World Series appearances, he's delivered the University of Tennessee a national championship, which, again, interestingly enough, as most of you probably do know, is actually the year that baseball was invented. That's right. The year that Tennessee won the national title 2 years ago.
Or it was the year they got good at baseball again. Yeah. That's when the sport.
And they looked around and went, look how good we are. And like, yeah, it's been around a while. No, it ain't. We just invented baseball.
This College World Series thing's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's good. We did it. Again,
do this every year.
Georgia and Auburn are amongst the top 5 teams in the RPI. And Carolina wants to be, but where's there just a kind of, hey, I mean, again, our way works. And then you have to look and go, our way worked.
Because it's changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
Since Ray Tanner coached this baseball program, the sport has undergone a lot of change. Yeah. And the teams around you that you compete with every year have undergone a lot of change and decided to take it more seriously.
Well, and look, I don't have an answer to this question, but I will just tell you that last summer I was asked, where was this money, in the last couple of years? And here's what I mean. We know now, listen, this isn't about whether Mark should or shouldn't have been fired. It's that the new head coach makes nearly double what Mark made. Not quite, but nearly double what Mark made. On top of that, you've got an assistant coach making more than $500,000, and you've got another assistant coach, I believe, in the 400 range. All right, so well over $2 million for your top 3 coaches. Whatever John Hendry makes and whatever the other staffers make, add that to the total. And someone asked me, where was that money, not so much for Mark in terms of upping that, but just what if you had taken the extra $500,000 that you're paying Paul Maneri above what you're paying Mark, and coupled that with the extra money that you're paying your staff, and put that into, and I say player development, which could also mean player acquisition, or the things that players need in terms of the facility. It's a great question. And again, it's somewhat rhetorical, but at the same time, it's not, because Elijah, they had the money. Mm-hmm. And the reason I know they had the money is because there's people down there making it, and earning it. So
it insinuates its existence prior.
I don't think those checks are bouncing.
No, they're not. They're going through, which tells you that there could have been more done in the years leading up to 2025. Like 2025 doesn't happen all of a sudden. There were little steps and small potatoes that added up to this point to where you get the season you do. You may not see it during the time, You can see glimpses of it. You can see warning signs. But usually big storms come with warnings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this big storm maybe had a warning that we just didn't take as seriously until it finally
to stay with it, and again, to be a little bit flippant for the sake of the discussion, was Carolina baseball that coastal resident that says, I'm not leaving. I'm fine. I'm going to stay.
I'll just board up my doors, buy a bunch of liquor, have a little hurricane party.
Yeah, and then when you wake up the next morning, you're like, uh-oh, I don't have a house.
My bed became a water bed.
Yeah. The wrong kind.
Yeah.
Don't know. Thanks to Mitch. Appreciate his time. We'll have that for you up on the YouTube page in just a bit. College football playoff news. Should the SEC expand? And where could Colin Murray Boyles be picked? All that coming up in hour 2. Keep it here. Integrated Media is the absolute best in home theater installation across the Midlands of South Carolina and beyond, and they can do so much more for you. If you've been to a friend or family member's house of late, or maybe you were even at a sports bar, and you say, gosh, I know I can't have like 30 TVs in my house, although you can. But what if I just wanted a similar setup, but, on a smaller scale? Could I have 4 TVs and one of those wall TVs at my house? Yes, you can. Integrated Media can do it. What if you want to go outdoors and watch and listen to everything you do inside, but you don't want to have to bring it in all the time or cover it up? Integrated Media can handle that for you as well. What about Wi-Fi that is professional grade but made for your home so that you can stream and game and do whatever else it is that you need to do without, trying to go stand somewhere and hope that it's going to work? Don't do that. Call Integrated Media, 803-948-8327. They're the best in home technology. Integrated Media. 4 o'clock on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Second hour coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We will get into some of those things that I told you right at the end of the hour, but quite literally, while we were in the commercial break at the end of the hour and heading into the 4 p.m. Set, we got breaking news from Major League Baseball. And I think this is by and large good news. It's not a finished story, but it is definitely breaking. I'll read verbatim here from Don Van Natta on ESPN.com. In an historic sweeping decision, Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred on Tuesday removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from Major League Baseball's permanently ineligible list. The all-time hit king and Jackson, both longtime baseball pariahs stained by gambling, and seen by MLB as the game's mortal sin, are now presumably eligible for election into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He goes on to say that Commissioner Manfred wrote a letter to an attorney named Jeffrey Linkoff, who had asked for Pete Rose to be removed, saying, quote, "Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I have concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list." As for Shoeless Joe Jackson, he says, it just goes on to say that based on current rules, it appears that the earliest they could be enshrined is 3 years from now. Shoeless Joe always maintained that he didn't do anything to throw that 1919 World Series. The statistics have backed that up in a lot of people's minds. Elijah, I've told you before, and I know I've said to the audience, I can remember when I was working in college as a page in the South Carolina State Senate, and Senator Ernie Passaleg from Charleston, huge baseball fan, every year wouldn't submit a law, but would ask for basically, a statement from the Senate, a referendum, a resolution to really just implore Major League Baseball to take Shoeless Joe off of the banned list as a South Carolinian. And, of course, it was always met with, hey, thanks for asking. No. That, baseball just stood by the decision regardless. And, on one hand, I'm glad for this. Certainly, Shoeless Joe's been gone a long time now. This is the right thing to do, ultimately. I had always thought, and I'm pretty sure you agree, and I know you're a big Reds fan and grew up with that as part of your fandom with your team and in your family, that Pete Rose should have had the opportunity to be voted upon, and then let the plaque in Cooperstown say this dude was a hell of a player, and he also screwed up real bad and lied about it. Because both can be true. But they want the Hall of Fame, and I get it. They want that to be a celebration of great baseball players, not people who intentionally harmed the game, whether they ever felt that they were harming the game or not. And Pete did. Pete did harm the game. But Pete also represented what millions of fans thought of a go-getter athlete. And then for Shoeless Joe, who could barely read and write, just an amazing natural ball player, again, obviously from a very bygone era. But as we've said, not only did not just the stats for that World Series. I mean, his stats in his career, he was a great baseball player. But the stats in that World Series would tell you this was not a man trying to blow it. I mean, he hit like almost 400 in the World Series.
Yeah, if he did try to blow it, he wasn't very good.
Yeah, he wasn't good at blowing it.
Right. All he had to do is not hit 400 in the World Series.
But, So and there are others on here. I'll get to some of that in a second. Again, this just came down to us, like quite literally about 1 minute before we came back on the air. So I'm trying to kind of do this as I talk with you. But 3 years, 3 years. So that's going to give. I'll be perfectly honest with you, man. I think, and this is just me. Okay, this is just my take right now. Again, minutes after this comes down, I think Joe Jackson will be enshrined.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and hear me out when I say first ballot, because I know it's not a legit first ballot thing like from 5 years after Pete Rose was done playing. But I wonder, for those who vote on this, if at his first opportunity, if you will, they put Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I'm not saying they won't, but I would think Joe Jackson, I think enough people over time have said, hey, this guy.
Especially since his involvement with it was never fully clear.
Yeah, you never really know. And again.
And there were some shady circumstances around the confessions of the players of the 1919 Black Sox scandal. If you ever get a chance, this summer you have some reading time, I highly recommend the book 8 Men Out.
Sure.
Fantastic read. It does a really good job of portraying what happened with those players, and even the author who researched that extensively never came to a full conclusion what the involvement with Shoeless Joe Jackson actually was. Yeah. You really can't prove a ton of what his involvement was.
And I'm sorry, as I'm scanning here, just backing up again, because I was in the chamber a couple of times, but it says here Jackson had a career batting average of .356, fourth highest in Major League history. After his death, Jackson's fans, including state legislators in South Carolina, launched numerous public and petition writing campaigns arguing that Jackson deserved a plaque in the Hall of Fame. Despite accepting $5,000 in gambler cash to throw the World Series, Jackson batted .375, didn't make an error, and hit the only home run in the series. So there you go. I don't know for sure. And look, it's now been more than 100 years on that one.
Yeah. And a fun fact about Shoeless Joe Jackson you probably didn't know. New Orleans Pelican legend. There was a minor league baseball team called the New Orleans Pelicans, and he spent time in the minors with the New Orleans Pelicans. So move over Anthony Davis, move over Zion Williamson, move over Alexia Jinsei. Shoeless Joe Jackson, greatest Pelican ever. Some are saying.
I think you could make the case.
Some are saying.
I think you could make the case.
Anthony Davis never hit 400 in a season.
That's right. So there you go. Breaking news: Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, and again, I'm trying to find out the others that are here. Doesn't say right now.
Because there are others.
And it's clearly, Don Van Natta's been sitting on this one, man, because this is like an essay. So even though this just came down,
he was prepared.
He was prepared. I just think this is almost one of those things like, all right, as soon as we finally get word, he had the story written.
Yep.
So good for him.
That's how the best in this business do it.
That's like an obit, right? Like, when you know something's coming, you have that obit ready to go. I hope they both get in, man. I hope they both get in. And maybe in 3 years' time, what I'm feeling right this second about how people may look at it will be different. By then, Pete will have been dead for a few years. Again, Joe Jackson's been gone for a long time. I think they both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And like I say, it's not hard to have someone write something that lets everybody know, reminds you, that, hey, while they were amazing ball players, there is a stain on them. But is it enough to keep them out? I mean, Pete Rose.
It's context.
I mean,
it adds context to what the story of these players are. And not every single player that's going to be in the Hall of Fame has, spotless records with what they've done personally.
Right.
Like it's a big part of their story, and that's why it should be included. Same thing with the steroid players. I mean, that's part of their production was fueled by things that you can't do anymore.
Right.
And there is the context needed to explain why they are disgraced players and why they have the reputation they do and why that sticks with them forever. That's part of the story. And you can't tell the story of Pete Rose without talking about the gambling. You can't tell, and you certainly can't tell the story of Shoeless Joe Jackson without mentioning the 1919 Black Sox scandal.
Yeah, you can't. And Pete, again, I'm stating the very obvious here, but there are just times when you have to stop and think. Like this is the man who had more base hits than any other person in a sport where it is so hard to put bat to ball.
One of the hardest things in all sports to do.
Not the best average, but just the longevity to do it and to add to it, and to stay at a highly productive level. And yeah, he was a get off my lawn curmudgeon when he was in his 30s, man. He was.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But okay.
So?
Yeah. So are a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like you said. And I think you hit it to context. It's okay. It's okay to have both things be true because both things are true.
Yes, absolutely.
And to state them, for future generations that want to go to Cooperstown and to see these plaques, to see what these men accomplished.
Major League Baseball tries to polish its image in every chance it can to be as squeaky clean as humanly possible, but like everything else in life, it's not going to be perfect. Right. There are players that are not going to be perfect, but excelled in what you did. And adding that context is valuable to understanding the stories of these players. And side note, the MLB, we're going to talk about, conspiracies. This is not even really a conspiracy. The MLB knew what guys were doing in the late 90s, too, as well, if we want to include those guys and scandals. They knew what a lot of them were doing.
Heck yeah.
But you know what they benefited from?
Them doing it. Yeah, yeah.
And so that's
sold out ballparks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? They do it again to have a summer like they did in 1998, right? Given the current state of the sport, I think what Major League Baseball needs to quit obsessing over is a squeaky clean image and really embrace what your true history is, right? You can't whitewash everything that's happened in your sport because you know what people still are going to do? Talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what people, in the middle of Columbia, South Carolina on a radio program are still going to do?
Right.
Talk about it. You keeping them out of the Hall of Fame does not deter people from paying attention and focusing on the reasons that those players are not in it.
Well, again, for a lot of people, good news. I don't know what, for instance, I don't know what Senator Passaleg is up to these days. I know he moved to Arkansas to do some work when he retired from the Senate. So I don't know where he is these days, but I hope he's happy and other fans in South Carolina for Shoeless Joe. And, Pete Rose had a national following for the obvious reasons we've already stated. So I'm happy for both of them that at least the opportunity can be revisited.
Yeah.
Right?
For their families more so.
Yeah. And, again, not sure right now, but from what Don Van Natta of ESPN is saying, summer of 2028
be here for you
will be the next time that they would be voted upon. I guess because that Veterans Committee doesn't meet annually, for regular enshrinement. Once you're off the list of that one, then it's more special. When's Dale Murphy up for enshrinement? When's that going to happen, Elijah Campbell?
Good luck with that one, unfortunately.
Still campaign for him, too.
Even if that ship has sailed and left the dock, I think, you can still scream.
I will. I promise.
You should.
All right. Good stuff. As we get more detail, we'll follow up with that. All right. On the other side of the break, Elijah's got multiple poll questions that y'all need to answer, including the growth or expansion of the SEC football schedule, not the conference, just the football schedule. We'll get into that and a whole lot more as the postgame show rolls on. 19 minutes after 4 o'clock here on a Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you. If you're just tuning in, breaking news from the offices of Major League Baseball in New York City. Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson have been removed from the ineligible list. And do remember, it was not a lifetime ban for those men or others that have been put on it. It's a permanent ban. But the commissioner is saying in a statement, now that Pete is gone, he has seen fit to do this for Pete and others, including a couple other teammates of Joe Jackson's on that Black Sox team. Well, I say the Black Sox. On the White Sox team, Black Sox scandal, White Sox team of 1919. So we'll get more detail on that. I also see a lot of people, just real quick, Elijah, and then we'll move on to your poll questions because you got, 4 of them that we need to get to.
Yes.
Look, I get that I'm not telling anybody how to feel, and I'm glad that they've done this. I assure you. But, there's a bunch of people right now on Twitter, I'm looking at responses to the ESPN tweet, so I haven't even gone to others. They should have done it when he was alive. No, they weren't. Y'all should have known they weren't gonna. I mean, you can complain about it all you want to, but if they were going to do it while he was alive, they'd have done it while he was alive.
Yeah, this is
on purpose. Now, again, you don't have to like it, but saying you should have done it. No, they believe, and he did. They're not wrong. He disgraced the game. He was betting on the games from the dugout for years and lying about it. And then lying about it some more. And then lying about it some more after that. Until finally coming clean. And there's still people that believe he did bet against the Reds. Because he always said, hey, I never bet against my team. Only for my team. And I'd be like, bro, all baseball teams lose 25% of their games or more. I mean, all of them lose 25% of their games.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's only 40 games. Everybody loses 40 games. And most teams lose, Tommy Lasorda used to have a saying in so many words, everybody wins a third, everybody loses a third. It's the middle third that makes great teams or not. So you're going to tell me, Pete, when you're playing 162 a year for however many years you were doing this, and you thought we're going to win we're going 162 in a year? Yeah.
Especially somebody who, in his post-managerial and playing career, bet on a lot more sport. He did not stop
everything, man.
And you do it when you think you're going to win something.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you lose. But anyway, I don't want to get into all the gambling aspect of it. That's neither here nor there in terms of this today. But I'm not at all surprised nor angered. Disappointed that he didn't get a chance because, again, he's the all-time hits leader. But not at all surprised that they waited until his death.
Well, they even said so in the statement.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, even in the statement,
Rob
Manfred clarified, yes, this was done after his death.
He's dead now.
Intentionally.
Yeah, he's dead now. He can't harm the game anymore. Sure, we'll do it. So, does it seem callous? Maybe. Again, depending on one's point of view. But anyway, we'll have more on this as we get more detail. All right, in the meantime, which one do you want to set up here? Because one is just for conversational purposes for what we do, but the other involves interactivity.
We'll do the interactivity one first.
Okay.
And then we'll leave the larger discussion for the poll of the day. Right?
Okay.
So starting today, and we tweeted this at 107.5 The Game, we've come up with a new segment. It's called Jay Phillips versus the Internet. Because Jay loves the Internet.
Because that's all I need.
It's all we need, right, is Jay in a fight against the World Wide Web. To give us, something extra to do during the summer, it's going to be a daily picks contest where we will give out 3 Twitter polls, and the winner of those polls represents the vote for the Internet, and Jay will pick against them in a contest every day against the spread or whatever prop it is. So today we have a mixture of both, and we'll just keep a running tally is if Jay Phillips can hang against the Internet.
Now, okay, well, I tell you what, ask the questions first. And then I have a question that I think you can answer, and then I'll be certain of what my role in this is.
Yes. Okay. So the first one is who will win tonight's game against the spread between the Cavaliers and the Pacers. Cavaliers are 7.5-point favorites as of right now. Now we have about 28 minutes left in these votes. So if you want to get in to compete against Jay or contribute to the competition versus one Jay Phillips, hop in now because this will expire a little before 5 o'clock. Cavaliers minus 7.5 for Pacers plus 7.5. And right now, 71% are voting Pacers plus 7.5.
Okay.
The next one, who will win tonight's game against the spread between the Thunder and Nuggets? Oklahoma City currently a 9.5-point favorite. So far, 60% say the Nuggets cover that 9.5. 40% have the Thunder winning by more than 9.5 points.
Okay.
And then lastly, will Braves starting pitcher Spencer Schwellenbach strike out over 5.5 batters or under 5.5 batters versus the Nationals tonight? The over right now at 67%, the under at 33%. So then in a separate segment in the next hour when the polls are closed, Jay will give his picks.
Okay, so I can pick either way then. So this is, while it's me against this, so I could be with
exactly.
the majority.
Because we're doing three of them a day.
Okay.
There will be some agreements with the crowd. There will be some disagreements with the crowd. Because
I think on the ones today, from what you just said, without saying which ones, I'm going to be with the majority on 2 of them.
Okay. And that leaves some leeway, which means that one you don't pick with, it's going to carry a little bit of weight.
Okay.
And we'll do this every day.
Okay. I like this. I like this, and I think I'll be curious to see how it grows. How much more of my, grumpy old man, get off my lawn type thing comes out, if that's really where this is going to take me. I don't know yet.
I think it is.
This could be.
I think it is, which is why I conjured this up.
Yeah. I'll be curious.
And
hey,
I'll
by the way,
in there
breaking news, the Portland Trailblazers are for sale.
You want to buy them? I could throw in like $15 right now.
Well, I got 8.
All right. Well, that's a good start.
It's 23. That's something.
No one's stopping us from putting in a bid with $23.
How many franchises are worth less than the Portland Trailblazers? I mean, it's a fine city, but it's kind of just out there by itself, and it's their only pro team.
Now we're talking about the big 4 American sports.
Yeah.
Sports leagues.
Yeah.
I would say it's a really good question. I think the Utah Mammoth would probably be a little less.
Oh, I was just thinking NBA teams.
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
NBA.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. You meant big. I say big 4. Yeah, but let's just stick with the NBA. Wizards worth less?
The Wizards,
even though they're in a really
less.
big city.
The Hornets definitely worth less.
I mean, that's the thing about Washington, man. It's such a if you did it right, the ability to tap into nearly 10 million people in that metro.
It's a pretty good pull. But
whereas
really
Portland is probably smaller than Charlotte.
But they do really well in attendance.
They love that team.
Even when the team's bad.
Yeah, they love that team.
They rock attendance.
And it's a generational team. It isn't like some expansion team from 10 years ago. They've been around since the 70s.
And they won. And they won a title in the 70s.
Yeah,
and they had some success in the late 90s, early aughts. And then
when Clyde was there, they were good.
Clyde was there, yeah. They went to a finals. So they've had a lot of success. I think the Sacramento Kings probably worth less.
Yeah.
Pelicans, I think, would definitely be worth less. Orlando Magic probably too.
But even, I mean, it's crazy these days.
Memphis Grizzlies might be worth less.
Memphis, but again, good basketball city.
Yeah, good basketball city that always packs the arena.
And but Memphis is like probably not quite as big as Charlotte or Portland, right? Right, about the same size, give or take.
I think Memphis is a little smaller than Charlotte.
It's not as big.
Probably smaller than Charlotte, maybe the same size as Portland.
Yeah. Anyway, Trailblazers are for sale. All right. So hit those up on 107.5 The Game on Twitter. And then the conversational question, let's go ahead and ask that. Don't give any results yet, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
It's a pretty simple one for the conversational one, and it's about the expansion of the college football playoff and auto bids. So the question is, are you in favor of a 16-team college football playoff with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 auto bids apiece?
Okay. And that ties into potential expansion of the SEC football schedule.
Yes.
So that's where my head was.
Yeah.
All right, so hit that one as well. 1075 The Game on Twitter. We'll get you some results, and we'll talk about that one because I have feelings. They're pretty strong. They're pretty strong. You're listening to the Postgame Show. You know, when you're just feeling a little tight, a little off there when it comes to your body, maybe you got back pain and you're waking up just a little stiff, might be time to get in and see the pros at the Joint Chiropractic Centers. They are ready to get you back to feeling the way you want to. They're convenient, they're affordable. They'll help you maintain a healthy body and prevent those reoccurring issues. Now, maybe you've never been to a chiropractic center. Well, the Joint has a fantastic initial offer for you. $29 gets you a consultation. Ask questions about what's up so you'll know. You get an exam and an adjustment, and never have to worry about appointments or insurance at the Joint. You heard me right. No appointments, no insurance. Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Saturdays, 10 to 4. You can just show up. They're going to take care of you. FSA and HSA approved. Harbison Boulevard, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. And remember this, you don't have to feel bad to feel better at the Joint.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With many accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways here this afternoon, but we'll stop with some serious stop-and-go traffic reported on I-26 westbound between Sunset Boulevard at exit 110 and St. Andrews Road near exit 106. We have accidents over at Ashland Road at Bush River Road, Bluff Road, Highway 48 at Pineview Drive, I-26 westbound after Sunset Boulevard near exit 110, 77 southbound at Fort Jackson Boulevard near exit 10, Killian Road at I-77, Longtown Road near Faro Road, Old National Highway at US 1 and 2 Notch, Old Tama Road at Coon Road, and Sumter Street at Taylor Street.
Talking about Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson having their permanent bans lifted by Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred. We'll continue to touch on that throughout the afternoon, and Elijah has just thrown out our poll question of the day. I'll let him give you the results. I'm going to read it, though. Are you in favor of a 16-team college football playoff with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 auto bids apiece? It's a yes-no question. And so where are we right now?
Yeah, the yes-no questions are usually the pretty easiest to answer. So right now with 128 votes.
Usually.
Yes, usually. With 128 votes, and we still have 19 and a half hours left in this bad boy, so plenty of time to chime in. But with 128 votes, 55% say yes, 45% say no. We did get a comment from Noah who says 16 teams, yes, 8 auto bids, no. And I would retweet that with the highest of emphasis.
Well, and technically, Noah, it's 13 auto bids, right? Technically
speaking, yes.
Because it'll be
just alluding.
And we don't know this yet. This is not a done deal. But this is what's being floated as the alternative to TV ratings being used as one of the criteria.
Which essentially this is doing the same thing, just indirectly.
Well, Elijah and I joked about this. I think we actually joked about it on air, too, a couple of weeks ago, but it's back in the news because the ACC is having its conference meetings right now, literally right now, down at Amelia Island. And then next weekend, I guess, next week or week after.
I think it's next week.
I don't know. It's soon. Anyway, soon the SEC will be doing its annual spring meetings down in Destin, where these topics are expected to be front and center. But we joked a few weeks ago when Heather Dinich had a report about this after one of the CFP meetings that the college football leaders may be looking at a number of things, including television ratings, as a way to seed teams into the playoffs.
Well, if they look at something like that, they will also be seeing something unintended, which would be my middle finger.
Well, they didn't intend to see it, but you intended to show it to them.
Yes.
So there's that.
That was fully intentional. We'll do it again.
But we kidded, as maybe others have too, and said, that's right, and said, sorry. If y'all can't see Elijah, he's just making old man moves.
I figured I would at least save the company the embarrassment of me throwing up a double barrel on camera, so I simulated the act. Yes.
Where was I? Oh, that Heather Dinich reported that they would do the TV ratings thing, and then people said, "No, here's what they're doing. They're telling you that as they're floating that as a trial balloon, so that when they pull it off the table and instead say, well, what about the 4 automatic bids for the ACC or the SEC and Big Ten, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12? Oh, okay, yeah, sure. TV ratings, no.
It's like the old fumblerooski, a little misdirection here.
Yeah. TV ratings, no. Automatic bids, sure, why not? I told you this morning, and I'm not trying to be a fence sitter. So if I were made to choose, I would choose. But I've said before, I liken this with Elijah this morning to the 96 school men's basketball tournament proposals, because it's been floated. I'm not going to advocate for it. I just think we're going to get it. And so I've just come to accept it because I know why they're doing it. Doesn't mean I got to like it. But I don't know that it does me any good, whatever age I may be, whatever station in life I may currently be residing at, to just use my energy to fight it. I'm okay with it. Again, I'd rather it be done on merit, but at the same time, I think that was part of the problem last year, and I think that's why these things are being floated the way they are. You and I were talking this morning, and you raised a good point. Is this being done, you asked, to eliminate the need for a committee? And I think I answered to you some form of eliminate, no, but lessen the impact of, yes. And I will stand by that feeling for now. Like, that's where I'm coming from. Because I think last year, I don't know, man. I think the SEC just really wanted to see one more of Carolina, Mississippi, or Alabama get in. And if I may be so bold and honest, I think they wanted to see Alabama get in instead of Southern Methodist University. No disrespect intended, SMU. But I think even the folks in Bristol/Burbank also went, are we seriously going to put Southern Methodist in this thing over Alabama? Is that really what we're doing here? Really? Really? All right. So now we're having talks. That's what I think is happening here. Indiana's in this thing? Seriously? Indiana? Okay, if y'all say so, but we got to have something else here. I'm not going to be easy selling an Indiana game. So,
Even though it did pretty well.
Well, because they got to play at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Again, Irmo JVs could have played at Notre Dame. They're going to get 10 million people to watch a playoff game.
Yeah.
Go Yellow Jackets.
We're pulling for you.
Right.
America's pulling for you.
Yeah. So
but
that kid looks small.
And that's
well,
my
he's only
biggest thing
13.
My biggest thing with this, too, is that you're going to get 4 in almost most years anyway.
Yeah.
You'd have gotten 4 in if Alabama didn't pee down their leg against 2 teams that went 6-6.
Just one of them.
All you got to do is not
Just
pee down your leg.
Just beat Oklahoma.
Pee down your leg all you want against Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Do that all you want.
Yeah.
Don't do it again. Right? Like that's
Right.
why they were not in the playoff.
Yeah, you did it again.
That's the reason they're not in the playoff. It's because they were habitual bedwetters during the season, right? And you cannot make bedwetting a habit and expect to be gifted a playoff spot. That's why that's why they're not in. Now the SEC and Big Ten want to just gift wrap spots for their teams. It almost takes away part of that accomplishment of getting in. It almost asterisks. I want to make that a verb.
What was Bama's third loss? Tennessee?
Tennessee, yep. A very excusable, very explainable loss, but they wet the bed twice against teams you're not supposed to wet the bed against, especially if you are mighty Alabama. And under this scenario, they would have been gift-wrapped a spot in the playoff, even though they didn't necessarily deserve it. That's my biggest thing with all of this is just the idea of auto bids, for especially 4 of them. So 3 non-conference champions getting an auto bid it runs counter to everything we believe in terms of merit-based postseason in sports.
And again, one of the things we've talked about too is that I don't think this is going to happen unless the Southeastern. Well, let me back up. The Southeastern Conference wants to go to 9 football games, conference games, and I think the SEC and the Big Ten would like to find a way to play one another in some form of challenge as part of the regular season. And this could be down the line a few years, but I think they would like that. I don't think either of them want, because the Big Ten's already playing 9 conference games. I don't think either of them want to do that without assurances that a much more difficult strength of schedule won't damage their opportunities. And whether it's real or not, in any given year is a lot harder to kind of, put your finger on. But it is a 9, and, they're going to tell you, and in a lot of cases, they're probably right. I mean, just kind of look at last year, even with Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama being ahead of a lot of other 2-loss teams from other conferences. That, Elijah and I made the point, strength of schedule did matter to the committee, but just not enough to put, again, Alabama really in over SMU. They just want assurances that if they do schedule up, that it's not gonna hurt them. It's not going to hurt their chance to win a national title, which is why I've always come around, Elijah, to saying we need to get used to a 3 or 4 loss national champion one day because the schedules are going to be harder. Again, if we have a 9-7 regular season team win the Super Bowl, you're going to probably see an 8-4 team win a college title one year. Probably. Now, I don't want a 6-6 team if that's what it gets to. Well, which is why I put a stipulation yesterday. If you don't finish in the top 25 of the committee's regular season poll, you're probably not eligible even with the 4.
But under this format, it'd be like a 9-7 team winning the Super Bowl because the NFC North or East was allowed to had 3 auto bids in the playoffs.
Yes. Jay or nay on the other side?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. What's missing from your summer nights? Maybe a great place to relax out back, or the ultimate way to enjoy your favorite tunes. Maybe just an escape from everyday stresses. Well, Griffin Pools and Spas has their biggest Memorial Day hot tub sale going on right now. Unmatched relaxation, incredible sound, and a deal you can't miss. Right now, you can get a free premium audio system completely built into your Bullfrog Spa, or they'll take $2,500 off the price. Hidden, splash-proof speakers, built-in subwoofer, Bluetooth connectivity, soak in premium sound, never leave the water, and only Bullfrog Spas let you personalize every seat with their Jetpack therapy system so you and your friends and family can enjoy the perfect massage just the way you like it. Check them out at Griffin Pools and Spas. Save $2,500 or get an amazing sound system in your new Bullfrog Spa. Welcome back in. Postgame Show continuing here. Final few minutes of our second hour. Coming up top of the 5 headlines of the day. More on Gamecock baseball, which, by the way, back at it tonight against Winthrop. 6:15 airtime across the Gamecock radio network, including right here in Columbia. 6:30 first pitch. We'll have more details on the matchup coming up in just a little bit. Got a funny hit on the YouTube stream.
We did, yeah. My man John comments, in response to your quote of "get used to an 8-4 national championship team." He says Texas A&M fans say, "So you're telling me there's a chance?"
Yeah, it could be, man. Could be A&M every once in a while. And when I say get used to it, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody's going to be 9-3, 8-4 going into this tournament. I'm just saying that I just think there's a lot of us generationally. We're just college football. We would just become accustomed to, hey, undefeated or one loss. That's who wins a title. That's what the sport has been. And I think for a long time, a lot of leaders in college football have been trying to find a way to reward a greater level of parity, to where one loss in September, or a second loss perhaps in October somewhere when you're good. Like, remember that Auburn team a few years ago? I've said before, I think there was an Auburn team that went 9-3. I think they lost their 3 games, but like a combined 10 points or something. I forget exactly, but something like that. I'm like, man, that team was good. But sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
But, might that team get into this playoff? Maybe so. And could they do something? I think that's what leaders have tried to do. So, again, do I advocate for 4 auto bids or whatever? No, I don't advocate for it, but I see what they're trying to do. But more importantly, what I want, Elijah, I want more conference games, and I want harder schedules for everybody. If you're going to play big time, I want you to play big time. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to step down a level or two. I don't want to hear things like what we heard from Kentucky. Oh, it's going to be hard to keep playing Louisville. Ugh, God, why don't you just stop playing football at that point?
Another food thought here, too. If we had a 16-team playoff this year, the SEC is getting 3 more teams.
Right.
Because Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Alabama would have all been in. And if you do 4 auto bids,
right.
Like, surely no one is going, like, you're getting 4 and that's it. Then you would have had a year like this year where you leave out a 9-3 team that deserved to be in.
Yeah.
You'd have got it anyway.
Would have.
If we had 16 teams, you would have had 3 more teams in.
So maybe
You don't need auto bids.
I get it. I get it. I get
Infuriates
it.
me.
But I do hope. I hope more than anything that if they're doing this to give me better schedules, harder schedules, if you will, across the board, I'm here. All right, we got to do a J or nay. We're going to run out of time, so let's play some game show music.
We do. So let me flip back to my original page here. A lot of flat pages. All right. J or nay? The NBA draft lottery reeks of tomfoolery.
Oh, come on. J.
The easiest
and
one.
J and J and J and J and J.
Emphatically. Might revisit that later.
1.8%.
J or nay? Colin Murray Boyles gets drafted in the top 10 of the draft.
It's looking like J. And I hope so, man. That'd be awesome.
I think he does.
I mean, 2 mocks today have him going 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
The combine is happening right now, by the way, over in Chicago. I hope he does everything he can do to solidify himself. But when you read the things about him that teams like, because you might think, gosh, look, by the way, Rutgers has 2 guys that are projected to go top 5. They didn't make tournament either.
Yeah. And one of those guys, at least, I feel pretty good about being a really good NBA player.
So I'm going to say J. Yeah. Yeah. Go Colin.
J or nay? The Carolina Hurricanes have cooked the Caps and will make a cup final appearance.
Well, I don't really have a favorite because I'm not a huge hockey fan, but my favorite would be the Washington Capitals.
Big
So with hope into this, I'll say nay.
In the NHL, 3-0 deficits have been erased, right? It's very doable, but they got them down 3-1 right now.
Yeah.
And they are going back to Washington, so that might change.
That crowd is raucous up there, but, I mean, to win 3 straight in the playoffs, that's hard.
It's tough. That's tough. And this Hurricanes team is
That's what you got to do.
Loaded.
Yeah, I get it. But I'll with hope involved, I'll say nay.
J or nay? With Derek Carr retiring, Spencer Rattler will be the Saints starting quarterback for Week 1.
Oh, man, I need a third category. Here's the thing. Is it down to him and Shook?
Pretty much. I don't think Jake Haener is swooping in.
And are they? And I guess what I ask is, they're not going to go try to get like Aaron Rodgers, are they?
I hope not.
Or somebody else that's out there?
I don't think so, because Derek Carr retiring is alleviating the salary cap hell they're living in right now.
Yeah, so
it's like a nice ice cube put in that fiery inferno.
Then if they're not going to go get a current veteran to come in and compete, then for Week 1 is your question?
Yes.
Then I'll say J.
I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I think he's shown them enough that if he can have a good summer, they can ride with him early and then allow the competition to continue.
Especially since they've invested in the offensive line a little bit.
Yeah. So for now, I'll say J. So go Spencer as well. Hour 3 coming up.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With many accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways. Be careful out there. Starting with one on Ashland Road at Bush River Road, Bluff Road, Highway 48 at Pineview Drive, I-26 westbound after Sunset Boulevard at exit 110, 77 southbound at Fort Jackson Boulevard near exit 10, Killian Road at I-77, Longtown Road near Faro Road, Old National Highway at US 1 and 2 Notch, and Old Tama Road at Coon Road, and lastly, one on Sumter Street at Taylor Street here downtown.
It is 5 o'clock news time. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show on this Tuesday. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. We appreciate you being with us. We'll start with Gamecock Baseball's matchup, final non-con of the regular season tonight. Pulmonary's Club hosting Winthrop. It's a 6:30 start time down the street at Founders Park. And at least as of today's release, no pitching rotation known. So I don't know, according to the University of South Carolina, who is pitching tonight.
Joke's on you. It's me. We go off the air. I'm walking straight to Founders. I've been warming up all day.
So it is, though, I do know this. The CVets folks are sponsoring another Bark in the Park tonight. So
yes.
Take your furry friends over and enjoy a game.
Maybe they can pitch. I've watched Air Bud.
You know,
there's nothing in. If there's anything you learn from that movie,
I don't want you to set me up for jokes.
There's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't play basketball. I'm sure the same is applicable for baseball.
Yeah. 6:30, first pitch from someone in a Gamecock uniform.
Presumably. Sir Big Spur?
Why not?
That's a good way to make some news.
I don't know. He's got the talons there. He scuffs the ball too much, man. Then it
adds that extra
rotation. But they're not going to like that, and he'll get in trouble.
But when it comes from a chicken,
I don't think it matters, man. Can't scuff the ball.
Can't scuff the ball, but I'm sure we can make some leeway if the.
But I bet he could throw a heck of a knuckler, because he could really grip into it and let that thing and just hold on to it and make it dance.
Yeah, without spinning.
Yeah. And I wanted to throw a knuckleball, so I know we're doing the news right now, but I wanted to throw a knuckleball so bad because I watched Phil Necro growing up,
Oh, yeah.
I tried, and I could do it every once in a while, but, man, you understand how hard it is to throw a knuckleball.
The generation gap here, you got to grow up watching Phil Necro throw the knuckleball. Great pitcher. My knuckleball pitcher in my era was Tim Wakefield.
Yeah, Wakefield, sure.
Wakefield, solid.
He was good.
Well, good, yeah, but we'll always be known for serving that one up to Aaron Boone on a platter to lose the ALCS.
Well, it happens. Anyway, there you go.
Adam won.
Gamecock baseball tonight. University of South Carolina today announced a partnership with a company called Legends. Legends is a truly, my words here, a global company. They do things with the NFL. They do things with the NBA. They do concerts. They do Premier League. They do Champions League stuff in different stadiums around the world. They do a lot of colleges, including Notre Dame and Wisconsin and Southern California. Now, the Gamecocks are added to their portfolio of clients. They will be helping with fan experience inside the stadium at Williams-Brice. This includes, I think, what the premium seating areas look and feel like, what you eat while you're there, the souvenirs you buy. Maybe some of the in-game experiences throughout the course of 4 quarters and beyond. Not a lot announced in terms of what they will be doing, but you can read more about what they do. There's links at GamecocksOnline.com, or we were talking earlier about this company and some of the things they do. It also says things like philanthropic fundraising, Might that mean ways to, again, get naming rights in certain parts of the stadium? Maybe at one of those brick walkways out front for fans to buy, like pay $100, buy a brick, and then you'll always see your name or your family's name out in front of the ballpark. Stuff like that. I don't know if that's what they're doing.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I will tell you that we have reached out to once again hopefully get Jeremiah Donati back on the program soon, which I believe we will. And I've also asked some folks in the athletics department to maybe help facilitate us getting someone that will be working with Carolina from Legends to come on and talk with Elijah and me about what they have planned, what they've done, what they'd like to implement, what could be unique to Williams-Brice, all that kind of stuff. The enhancements and renovations to the stadium will begin shortly after the Clemson game. That's what we're told.
Gives them
so there you
time.
go. Yeah. So there you go. Continuing. Oh, by the way, one more football note or one more Gamecock note. Gamecock football opener with Virginia Tech at the Dome in Atlanta, Sunday, August 31. We knew that. We now also know it will be a 3 p.m. kickoff at the Dome. 3 p.m. Gamecocks and the Hokies. Today, massive news out of Major League Baseball. The commissioner, Rob Manfred, today lifted the permanent bans from Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and several other players, which now makes them eligible for election and induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame. In a letter written to an attorney named Jeffrey Linkoff, who had been representing the Rose family, the commissioner said, obviously, a person no longer with us can't represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I have concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list. And that obviously applies to Joe Jackson as well. I was telling Elijah, I remember, and this was actually cited not directly, not my experience, but I worked in the state Senate as a page back when I was in college as a political science student. And I remember Senator Ernie Passaleg of Charleston, he's no longer a state senator, but he would put forth resolutions to urge Major League Baseball to reconsider Shoeless Joe Jackson's ban based on how the statistics really didn't match up with someone who was paid to throw the World Series. Of course, it didn't go anywhere, but the effort was always made. And it was cited in this article by Don Van Natta of ESPN that even state legislators attempted to do that. And I don't believe that Senator Passaleg was the only one that did it. I just remember when I was working over there, I can remember him standing up and doing it. I think there were others in the state that have done it. Joe Jackson was from Greenville, by the way, for those of you who didn't know that. But this, again, opens the door. This does not put them into the hall. That'll be up to those who make those selections. And because these are men who will be voted upon by a veterans committee, a more select committee, they don't meet but every so often. And according to this particular article today, the earliest they could be enshrined would be the summer of 2028. So the next meeting for that committee, I suppose, doesn't come around for a couple of years. But good news today, and we talked a lot about it earlier in the program, but good piece by Don Van Natta, by the way, who, again, had this one ready to go. So good, yeah, good for him. Big J journalism, as you like to say, but he had this one ready to go once the news was going to come down. So check that out at ESPN.com or your favorite baseball writers. I can't wait to see what Tim Kirkjian has to say about this, and Bob Costas has to say about this, and Peter Gammons has to say about this. These guys that I grew up with, George Will. I'll be very curious. George Will, especially. What's he going to say? I'll be curious.
What's the response?
Yeah.
Now you have to respond.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You have to. I walked right by George Will, by the way, in Georgetown, D.C. I was like, hey, that's George Will. I wanted to stop and ask him questions. I was like, don't do that.
Don't bother that man.
But I really wanted to. I was like, seriously. I was like, George Will. My wife was like, who? I was like, George Will. She's like, oh, George Will. And then she's like, rolled her eyes.
She's like, well, how about you, George won't? And we'll keep going on with our day.
NBA news. It's all just the news now, so I won't get into my cynicism of earlier. But if you didn't see it last night, the Dallas Mavericks, with just a 1.8% chance to win the NBA draft lottery, won the NBA draft lottery. So they'll be taking Cooper Flagg. And the reason I say they will be taking Cooper Flagg is because they have basically announced today, we're not trading the pick. They didn't say, we're taking Cooper.
But they're keeping the pick.
But we're keeping the pick.
It's the clear number one.
Yeah. So Cooper Flagg, welcome to Dallas. When's the draft? Next month sometime?
Yeah.
Like a month from now?
Mm-hmm. Late June. After the
finals,
Very
right?
soon after the finals.
Well, because are you sure it's June? Is it not like August or like next November? Does the NBA season ever really stop?
No.
Is it all just one continuous thing?
I mean, the off season's as popular as the regular season.
Off season lasts like a month, man.
And it's all free agents signing in. It's a rush, drinking through a fire hose of information.
But, Mavs won't be trading that pick. Also, in the NBA, a lot of NBA news today, but the estate of the late, great Paul Allen of Microsoft has announced today that the Portland Trail Blazers will be put up for sale with the proceeds going to philanthropic endeavors. Mr. Allen died back in 2018. His will called for the franchise to be sold, quote, at some point. His sister has been acting as the team's governor and the executor of his trust in that time. The trust said that the Seahawks, which they also own, will not be part of the sale, nor is the Allen family's 25% stake in the MLS Seattle Sounders, which, by the way, are a very valuable and very popular franchise.
Well, I know who the favorites are in that family.
Yeah, they often, well, they live in Seattle. They live in Seattle. So, but Portland's close, and I guess, I guess he bought the Blazers maybe after the Sonics moved and became the Thunder. I'm not sure when he bought them.
I thought he was part of the ownership group whenever the Jail Blazers were a thing.
He might. I don't know. I can't remember when he bought them. I don't know. But how long? Like Thunder have been in OKC now for what, 20-something years?
2007 was when.
So right
because
around.
Kevin Durant played a single season for the Sonics.
That's right. He did
his rookie year.
Yeah, I can't remember then when Paul Allen bought the Blazers. You might be right. He might have bought them before the Sonics moved. Maybe he just couldn't buy the Sonics.
Right. Because Howard Schultz had owned the Sonics and then was responsible for them leaving.
Don't have any word here, but let's see. The Celtics just sold a course for a little over $6 billion. Sportico, which values teams, says my goodness. Okay, I do have my answer now. Allen bought the Blazers in 1988.
Oh, so he bought them
long time ago.
Long time ago.
So right, when he was swimming in the early Microsoft cash.
That's right. And it was still enough to help him buy the Portland Trail Blazers.
$70 million. And just knowing what I know of inflationary things, I would say that probably is around $200 million in today's dollars.
Let's find out.
Sportico values the Portland Trail Blazers at $3.6 billion. Dang.
Do you know when in 1988 the city bought him?
It just says 1988.
All right, so we're just going to use January. For how much again?
$70 million. And they're saying that Phil Knight and his family may want to buy the Portland Trail Blazers. Oh, boy.
Might as well.
Hey, it was fun. It was fun, Oregon Ducks. There you go.
Ooh, the inflation calculator won't do anything under 10 million or over 10 million.
I think just because we talk so much about some of the things from the early 90s, I'm just going to say that's around 200 million, give or take.
At this point, I don't take your word for it.
But my point is it's now worth 3.6 billion. So that's a heck of a return on investment. The Atlanta Braves had a walk-off win last night over Washington. This will be the fourth time in just over a week that the Braves have a chance to go back to 500. They're currently at 20-21, hosting the Nats again tonight at 7:15. Better news for the Braves. Ronald Acuna will make his first Florida Complex League. That's what it is, Elijah. The Florida Complex League, which sounds like you play in a mall or something.
It's not the Florida Simple League.
Rehabbing his ACL after his ACL surgery. And Spencer Strider is getting back into to some rehab as well after pulling his hamstring earlier in the regular season. Braves go at it again tonight with the Nats. And if my computer will cooperate, I'll give you a quick pitching matchup. It will be, the aforementioned Spencer Schwellenbach, 1-3 with a 3.61. And former Brave Mike Soroka, good for him, man. I'm pulling for this kid, and I hope he catches on. But he's not having a good year. 0-2 with a 7.20. But man, he's the guy that ruptured both Achilles.
Yeah,
before he turned
tough.
23.
That's tough. All right, glad he's still playing Major League Baseball.
Remember that? I mean, you might not, but his rookie season, you're like, oh, this kid can deal.
He had it.
And then he ruptured one, and then he ruptured the other, and just, oh man.
On a lighter note, what
Yes.
Paul Allen bought the Blazers for in 1988 is the equivalent of buying them for almost $190 million.
Okay, so I was 200 million.
You're close.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I keep up with some of this stuff. Yeah, Mike Soroka's only 27 now, but man, he had promise.
Poor guy.
Yeah, pulling for that kid. Not tonight. Sorry.
But in the future.
But most of the time. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. We'll come back on the other side. We spoke with Mitch Light of The Athletic earlier about the state of affairs of Gamecock baseball. He covers it nationally, of course. What did he have to say? I want you all to hear it when the postgame show returns. 19 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Tuesday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Again, Carolina baseball coming your way in just under an hour's time. Also want to remind you real quick about the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. If a Carolina batter hits a Grand Slam, you could win the cash in the pot. Right now it sits at $525. Palmetto Citizens will add another $25 every game, regardless of whether or not somebody wins. They just start it over again. But you have to register. 1075thegame.com is the way to do that. Speaking of Carolina baseball, Elijah and I appreciate the time of our buddy Mitch Light, who is based in Nashville, covering SEC football and baseball for The Athletic, but really covering all of college baseball nationally in the springtime. And Mitch joined us earlier, and we talked about a lot of things here, and you can get the entire interview on our YouTube page. But we started him off, and you'll hear this is a couple of minutes that Elijah has carved out with a question from each of us, but I'll start just with the answer that he gave me on basically, you know how proud the program is, Mitch, and yet South Carolina is now just in some kind of baseball hell. How did we get here? Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, master of the obvious. Did I say obviously master of the obvious? That's not very good. Good thing I'm not an editor for a living or anything like that.
English.
It's not. Yeah, it's not ideal. And there's like the way we spent most of this college baseball season talking about how bad Missouri was, historically bad, 0-24, getting run ruled every week. And I kind of said South Carolina is a team that's having a bad year, but not fair to group them with Missouri. The RPI reflected that. They were competitive for some parts of the first half of the season. I'm not saying they were as good as Auburn last year, but Auburn went 5-25, I believe, in the SEC last year, lost a lot of close games. But then that argument kind of goes away in the last couple of weeks. Just the way they've lost those games, 22-3 against Florida. I was driving home, picked my son up at college last Thursday. He was driving home. I was checking scores, and I saw the Auburn score Thursday night. I was like, oh, my, that is not good. So obviously, you guys know this. It's a proud program that's won multiple national championships. And this might not be fair. The landscape's changed a lot over the last decade. When South Carolina was at its peak, teams were trying to be good at college baseball, but there wasn't the league-wide commitment that there is now. With the paying of the coaches, the salaries, and obviously the paying of the players now. So there's more teams fighting for that elite spot. And if you fall back a half a step or a full step, you're gonna lose a lot of games because teams are getting better if you're not getting better. So going to the season, we knew this wasn't a great roster. Knew they've had some injuries, but it's just not a great situation when you're playing this poorly down the stretch. Especially when you look at Missouri, a team that was 0-24, and they go to College Station, show a lot of fight, win 3 games. So there's no short-term answer. I mean, there could be a short-term answer, I guess, with a coaching change, but that is a very difficult decision the administration is going to have to make.
And you mentioned Auburn too, and I've been kind of fascinated with how they've turned things around. They did so by keeping the coach, and they made a lot of adjustments with the roster. But I looked at a lot of stats from last year, just comparing like last year's Auburn team and this year's Carolina team in SEC play. I mean, Auburn had a significantly better ERA, but they had the same team batting average. They're similar in home runs. Auburn walked a lot more batters, and they hit the exact same amount of batters. And, of course, that Auburn team had a few more games underneath their belt than this Carolina team does going into the LSU game. But when you look at what Auburn's been able to do in one short year, what do you think South Carolina, I guess, can do something similar with in terms of just trying to get this thing turned around, assuming they have a similar coaching staff?
Yeah, so Auburn has some great freshmen. They had a great freshman class coming in. And I'm sure I don't think Butch Thompson was really on the hot seat, but I'm sure that was part of the equation. They knew that. Now, in college baseball, you never know how many of those freshmen you're going to get. You don't want your freshmen to be that good or your signees to be that good that they skyrocket up the draft boards, because then you're going to lose them. But they are a young team that is showing a lot of promise for the future. As you guys know, we live in a world with the transfer portal era where there can be quick turnarounds. That is a very positive thing. It's a year-to-year thing. So if there is a financial commitment in the NIL space, things can turn around. But the problem is the gap is the talent gap with that Auburn team and the rest of the league wasn't as great as the talent gap that South Carolina is facing right now. But also, you don't have to be that vastly improved. Let's say they improve the talent by 30%, I'm making up a number, and just play better baseball, you can make the tournament at 13 and 17, maybe 12 and 18 if you have the right 12 wins. Then that's a step in the positive, in a positive direction. So they just need good things to happen next year if the coaching staff is back. If the coaching staff isn't back, then we'll see a complete roster overhaul, and you just never know what you're going to get.
That was Mitch Light joining Elijah and me earlier. Again, full interview on our YouTube page. Go check that out and appreciate Mitch's time. Again, Mitch Light is L-I-G-H-T. Mitch Light to follow along on Twitter. The reason I wanted to put both of those questions in there, too, is, one, how did we get here? But we locally can answer that question a little bit differently, Elijah, and it's one of the reasons that it was good to have some outside perspective. What are people saying as they look at this program? I would imagine there's a lot of, man, South Carolina. Just remember what they were.
Now it's what happened.
Yeah, it's how did that happen?
What happened?
How did you? And to Mitch's point, you're not just getting beat. You're not just losing. Rather, you're getting beat badly. I did the math the other day, like I told you, on the 22 conference losses, it's basically 11-4. So think about that for a minute too. You're giving up in your losses. You're giving up double-digit runs,
almost triple of what you're scoring.
And it's just how, and later in the interview, without giving too much away, because I'd like you to go listen to it, because I think Mitch did a good job of answering it. But he in the first answer he gave me, he talked about, hey, back then, 10, 15 years ago, well, I guess 12 to 15 years ago, people, again, look, Carolina played Florida for a title. Vanderbilt was good. Arkansas was in one of those World Series. Georgia had been. Carolina and Georgia went to a World Series together 2004. So you've had pockets of it, right? But you didn't you didn't have this, where just like basketball, you might get 14 of your 16 into the national tournament.
Texas A&M might have bailed you out.
Yeah, you might. It might be 13 now. But what if they have a good week next week? Or what if they sweep somebody this weekend? I can't remember who I think they have Missouri. No, they just had Missouri. They have.
They had Missouri.
They had Missouri.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
They had Missouri.
They have.
Right. Missouri
anyway.
had them.
Yeah, I'll look it up. But look, there's an opportunity, right? Regardless, is the financial commitment there? And one of the things that I asked, and I told you last summer, I had somebody ask me where was the money that is going into the new coaching staff to have just used on the program? Like, why wasn't that offered? And I get a rhetorical question. I don't know. But it is a fair question to ask. Would that have been enough? I don't know.
Because it shows you, or at least it implies, that the money was there.
You had the money.
And you'll use every cent you can get in terms of talent acquisition.
Yeah. But now you've paid this coaching staff this much more money, and the results have gone south.
Cratered.
Yeah. So is it just a matter now of, okay, now we know what we pay the coaches. Now let's go spend X on a roster and see what happens. You'd like to think so. But, again, these things, Elijah, don't happen in a vacuum. And if you're now being compared with Auburn, which isn't a bad thing per se, but Auburn's not Arkansas. They're not Tennessee. They're not Texas. They're not LSU, man. And that's the neighborhood you want to live in. You don't really want to live in the neighborhood with Auburn and Alabama and Kentucky.
No.
Nothing wrong with it.
That's not what your history is.
Right.
Or suggests it should be.
Right. You believe you're elite. You want to live in the penthouse level. Long way to go. Long way to go.
And right now, your home does not resemble a penthouse right now.
So we'll see. And again, the new #1 team in the country, the LSU Tigers, come to town this weekend. But first things first, Winthrop tonight. Again, check it out. Once again, thanks to Mitch. Appreciate it. And we talked about some of the national stuff and national seeds. And Elijah even asked him for the one team we're not talking enough about that might win the title. And he gave us an answer on that one, too. So check it out on the YouTube page. We'll come back on the other side with a drive around the SEC. And a little bit later on, a brand new segment coming to the program. Jay Phillips versus the internet, which, again, sounds like some kind of...
Sounds ominous.
It does. Sounds like some kind of really bad movie.
Because it is.
Joe versus the volcano, only different. Be right back.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to you. They're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one that's got the left lane completely blocked. That's on I-20 westbound, right before the Monticello Road exit 68. We also have some other traffic backups as a result of accidents on Bluff Road, Highway 48 at Pineview Drive, Clemson Road near Rain Road in North Springs, I-20 westbound at Fairfield Road near exit 70, 26 westbound after Sunset Boulevard exit 110, Killian Road at I-77, Shop Road at Atlas Road, and Sparkleberry Lane at Clemson Road.
It is Drive Around the SEC time. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Again, coming up in just a little bit, Jay Phillips versus the Internet. Brand new segment that Elijah has created.
The debut of Jay Phillips versus the Internet.
That's right, yeah. Frightening on multiple levels.
Terrifying.
Yeah. But if I could take on the Internet, that'd be fun. But maybe it's not
seem to be
quite,
outmanned.
it's not quite that kind of versus.
Yeah, not hand-to-hand combat.
That's right.
No.
That's right. Speaking of the Internet, I think I can probably pull it up more quick. Well, you just had traffic up. Poll question of the day: are you in favor of a 16-team college football playoff with the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 auto bids apiece? This runs till tomorrow afternoon, but right now 54-46 is what I've got here, Elijah, in favor. So it's tight-ish.
Yeah, and we'll have a larger sample size tomorrow. That one's pinned to the top of the profile,
Good.
so we'll be able to continue that tomorrow as well.
By the way, real quick, before I get to the baseball schedule tonight across the league, I did see this. I don't know what this site is, ML Football, but they have 344,000 followers.
Vultures.
And it says
Engagement farmers.
It says that they are your home for everything football.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And it says credentialed media.
I'm sure they are.
Well, listen, man, I can get a credential to a lot of
Right.
places. Credentialed where?
Buddy, they let me in the Final Four the last 2 years, okay? So that's not saying much.
Well, but it said Bengals second-round linebacker Demetrius Knight is not participating in drills because Cincinnati's rookie waiver, unlike those of the other 31 NFL teams, does not fully protect players, team sources tell ML Football. To which Demetrius responded, "News to me. Had a great practice today and looking forward to practice tomorrow. Thanks."
This is Exhibit A on why you should not follow aggregator accounts.
Yeah. But it says exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah. Even exclusive to the player they're reporting about.
Right. Yeah. But when the player himself smacks you, like, way to go, Demetrius.
Yeah, you know what? Like, that's why it's really funny when something like that comes out and there are also, a player that actually participated in practice can refute that. And so can the reporters that, I don't know, were at practice.
Yeah, cover the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baseball tonight in the Southeastern Conference as we continue our drive around. Tennessee is hosting Belmont. Do you want to? I think you should tell everybody real quick that you have a special correspondent on site.
Yes, 107.5 The Game does have a correspondent. He is not getting paid.
He's not credentialed media.
He's not credentialed media, no, but he is a
So
correspondent.
he could just be making stuff up.
Yes, one Frank Campbell Jr., the 107.5 The Game, East Tennessee correspondent, at the game right now between Belmont and Tennessee, and he is reporting that it's 0-0 after the first inning.
Well, then let him know that the SEC website says the exact same thing. So that's good. So that's corroboration.
So that's right. Well, in journalism school, they tell you to corroborate with multiple sources before going forth with a report. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We consulted the SEC's website, which has been wrong before.
Yeah, it did get it tripped us up like a month ago
by the SEC's website. So that's why we send renowned baseball reporter Frank Campbell Jr., some relation, to Tennessee, a Tennessee Belmont game, just so we can have some accuracy.
That's good. And to let everybody know, that's
my dad.
That's Elijah's dad, who was actually my buddy here in studio.
He has been in studio.
Yeah, just hanging.
One day we'll get him to crack the mic. We'll get him to get over his stage fright and crack the mic.
No, that's not hard.
It's not.
He'd have been fine. He should have. Also tonight, Kentucky hosting Northern Kentucky, which again we did figure out was in
Northern Kentucky.
The
northern part of Kentucky, yes.
We did look up the town, but now I've already forgotten.
I've already forgotten it too.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
But it's in Northern Kentucky.
Yes, that we do know.
Confirmed.
The Compass can confirm as well.
Number 6, Auburn hosting the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State. UT Martin will be at Mississippi. Where's Martin?
Martin is in the west part of Tennessee, near Memphis.
And, rained out. Oh, that's too bad. State was hosting North Alabama, but that one has been rained out. And there are no games for tomorrow, so that's it for midweek games tonight, including the Gamecocks and Winthrop. So Gamecocks didn't have one last week, and now a bunch of schools in the SEC don't have one tonight. I think Belmont's going to beat Tennessee, man.
You know what? I think so too. Mostly because my dad is at the game. Lifelong, diehard Tennessee Vol fan, all sports.
Right.
And the one game he gets to go to, he doesn't get to leave, Jamestown, Tennessee a lot. But, he had a buddy who was able to score some tickets and said, hey, you want to take a day trip? So they took a day trip to Knoxville, not too far away from where he lives. And because he's actually at the game in person, they will lose. He's one of those two.
Well, now I don't want him to. I didn't think of it like that. I'd already.
Oh, well, no, you're on to something here. Yeah. Okay, so here's what he does, especially during basketball season this year. They played a lot of close games.
Right.
He gets too nervous and doesn't watch, and will just keep up with it on his phone. Like, his nerves are so bad that he will not watch the game. Because I'll call him after a game or whatever and be like, hey, especially like the Tennessee-Alabama basketball game where it was the buzzer beater.
Right.
I call and said, Dad, please tell me. Please tell me you saw that buzzer beater. No, I got too nervous, turned the game off, went to Sawbriar, which is the brewery he goes to, which is,
they had it on, right?
Oh, but he wasn't watching. He was too nervous. He was too nervous to watch. I'm like, man, you would have loved that. You'd have had so much fun. Why do you stop watching? I think I'm just bad luck. He's incredibly superstitious. So because he is at the game, Tennessee is going to make him suffer through a loss where he can't check out early.
Oh, he has to stay. He could go walk the concourse there at beautiful Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
He might. They get down like 5-0 or something. He might go for a walk. Yeah.
That's a quaint little park. I like that. But it's not little anymore, but it used to be.
Good scenic view out in the outfield.
Yeah, it's good.
He's got him some good seats.
Good.
Couple rows behind home plate. He's loving it.
Appreciate his reporting in.
I told him if anything changes on that score, let me know.
Yeah, get one more update.
That he is an intern right now.
One more update. Well, speaking of Tennessee games that your dad may attend, Syracuse versus Tennessee has been announced on opening weekend, August the 30th. That's a Saturday. That's in the Dome in Atlanta. Noon kick. A lot of orange.
And if it's close, my dad will not be watching.
A lot of orange. I expect Tennessee to win that game.
They should. Syracuse loses a lot, even though I'm a big
They were
Fran.
good last year. I like
Brown
what Fran's doing, man.
And you know what? The reason
Fran
I
wrecked
like
it for everybody. Really stupid Miami.
Yeah, he did. But one thing I love about the Syracuse hiring of Fran Brown, it goes against conventional college football wisdom. They hired a guy who's never called a play in his life before, but is an ace recruiter, and they said we'll figure the rest out. It goes against the grain a little bit, and they were rewarded in the first year by going 9-3 because he took Ohio State's quarterback.
Give me a great a team full of talent and somebody that had never called a play, or a great play caller and no talent, and I will take the talent team with no play caller every time.
I'll hit up Fran Brown and say, hey, man, I've had some success calling plays.
Because eventually you'll just say, you, big dude, block. You, fast guy, run.
Run the touchdown play.
You, strong arm dude, throw it to the fast guy. Eventually it'll work itself out.
They'll figure that out. Yeah.
And all you guys on the other side, when the other team has the ball, hit him.
Tackle that guy with the ball.
Just get that guy. These are pretty easy concepts after a while. At least at first.
It out. Yes.
Yeah, the nuances come later.
But that's first.
For now, just, if you're really good, you.
Seems to be working for the Cuse.
That's right. Also that day, Alabama will be at Florida State. That's a 3:30 kick.
It's intriguing.
At the Doak, and it'll be about 98 with a real feel, as they say, of 137.
You might be selling it about 30 degrees short there. Might be like 167.
And LSU at Clemson that night, up at Clemson's Death Valley, 7:30 kick. LSU at Clemson in the Battle of Death Valleys.
It is.
And then they go there next year. Clemson goes out to Louisiana.
What they should do is if they split the regular season series for each year, especially if they both hold serve at home, they should play a neutral site game, and the loser of that neutral site game, the rubber match, if you will, has to drop Death Valley from their stadium.
Or go have like training camp in actual Death Valley.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Equally.
Actually, that sounds terrible, and we shouldn't do that.
That one's more inhumane.
And if you're saying, well, hey, Jay, Syracuse and Tennessee are playing in the Dome. Aren't the Gamecocks playing in the Dome too? Yes, they are. The very next day, Virginia Tech and South Carolina, 3 p.m. kickoff on Sunday the 31st. So that crew at the Dome will be stripping paint and putting new paint on, and it'll smell like paint when you get it there on Sunday.
That's actually not the worst thing in the world.
Unless they open the roof, which you don't want them to do, because in Atlanta, it'll also be about 137 degrees in late August.
Toasty.
That's our drive around the SEC. Jay Phillips versus the Internet, with your participation involved, is next. AAA Heating and Air, some of my favorite people. And yes, we had a little issue with the upstairs AC at the house. It was an old system, not initially installed by AAA Heating and Air. But after careful consideration, their pros came in, and now my kids who live up there have a brand new system. So no more, Dad, it's hot. Because believe me, I got a little bit of that before we got it fixed.
You probably got a lot of that.
I did actually,
because it probably was a sweat.
It was actually they were not wrong. It was uncomfortable, but now everything's good. And even me and my family get the 15-year parts and labor guarantee. Really happy with what Roy and the entire crew were able to come do at the house. So you need to make sure you stay cool. 803-677-1500, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, $1,500 rebate, guaranteed financing, and so much more. Great people to work with. Stay cool with AAA Heating and Air. Eleven minutes in front of 6 o'clock here on a Tuesday. By the way, if you would like to go to the opener against LSU Thursday night at 7.
Thursday.
We have 2 family 4-packs. We need texters number 3 and 4. Text us LSU, your full name, and your email address, please. So text LSU, your full name, and your email address to 803-404-6100.
And you will be going.
And you will go.
To see some Carolina baseball. It's the last chance to go this year.
That's right. So no calls for this one. This is a text-only giveaway. But make sure you include LSU.
Yes.
Name, email address.
That way we know what you're inquiring about.
Yeah, otherwise you're just sending us your name and email address. We'll hit you back.
Yeah, well, we will. Yeah, eventually.
You're like, how you doing?
Yeah, hey, how's it going? Yeah, I just figured I'd hit you up. Got an update from our Tennessee correspondent.
Oh, yeah?
Tennessee up 5-0 the bottom of the second, but they're in a lightning delay.
Oh, no.
My man gets out of that. He gets to leave his town for one day and gets to see like an inning and a half of baseball.
Well, he saw a home run, so
he did.
That counts.
He saw a home run.
He saw a home run.
So he got to see that, and they're up 5-0, so you can't panic watch if you're up 5.
Well, lightning delay means at least 30 minutes.
Yes.
And I got a hunch that the Belmont Bruins may be on the bus back to I-40 West here in just a little bit.
There's a good chance.
We'll see.
There's a good chance.
But, hey, you went down there. Now just go over to, I don't know if it's still there, the Smoky Mountain Brewery in the old town. Yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah. Calhoun's right on the river, too. Great wings. He's got options.
Yeah, Smoky Mountain Brewery. That's where I saw the Braves win the World Series.
Great memory.
That was all right, my man.
That was fun enough.
That was all right, because the football game that day sucked.
Was not all right.
Depending on who you pull for.
Yes.
Peyton Manning did fine.
I'm sure my dad watched that game and remembered it fondly.
Yeah, I do not. That was my first time at Neyland, too. Oh, my. Anyway, Braves won the World Series that night.
Which is the most important takeaway for you.
Yes. All right, what do we got here? Jay Phillips versus the internet. So let's do a quick explainer.
Yes. So here's what Jay Phillips versus the internet will be. I will put out a poll on Twitter at 1075 The Game. There'll be 3 of them each day, and they're over events that happen that night. And what you're going to do is pick the winner. You're going to vote, and the winner of the polls is what will represent the internet in this contest. Jay will then have a chance in the last segment of every show to give his pick for those games, and then we will ultimately have a running tally throughout the rest of the year. We will make this a daily thing for the rest of the year.
I'm excited. I hope I do well. Again, I hope I don't attack the internet too hard, but we'll see. All right.
So for our first ever Jay versus the internet.
Okay.
The first one.
Yeah.
Who will win tonight's game against the spread between the Cavaliers and the Pacers?
So I'm picking the spread, right?
Yes, we're all picking the spread.
Picking the spread.
Cavs are 7.5-point favorites. 69% of the internet, said the Pacers at plus 7.5%. What say you?
Tonight, it's in Cleveland, yes?
It is in Cleveland.
Yeah, you know what? Tonight and tonight only, give me Cavs to cover the spread.
Ooh, okay.
So I'll go against the internet on that one. Give me Cavs to cover that. I think the Cavs make at least one statement, and it'll be tonight.
And then in the second one, also keep it in the NBA here. Okay. Who will win tonight's game against the spread between the Thunder and the Nuggets? Oklahoma City is 9.5-point favorites. The internet says Nuggets plus 9.5, 62% went with Denver to cover.
All right, add me to that. Yes, Denver. Give me Denver plus the points. Yes.
So plus 9.5 is an awful lot.
It's a lot of points. That's a lot of points.
It's an awful lot. And lastly, we'll do a lot of Braves this year.
Okay.
We talk about the Braves a lot on this fine program. Will Braves pitcher Spencer Schwellenbach strike out over or under 5.5 batters tonight against the Nationals? Ooh. The internet, 67% says over.
Yeah, over.
Okay, so
I think they'll let him. I think they'll let him. If he's doing well, they'll let him go 6. And that I think he's doing about a strikeout an inning, so that would be about right. That's a well-chosen bookmaker's number right there too. Nice, but yeah, give me the over.
So the over it is.
Because I think if he's doing well, I think they'll let him go 6.
So right now,
he was dealing the other day, man.
He's solid. Yeah. He's a really good pitcher.
Dealing the other day.
Young, and they'll keep him for a while.
Hope so.
He can mainstay in the rotation.
That's the goal.
But the big one tonight. The only difference between the Jay Phillips pick and the internet pick is Cavs and Pacers.
Yeah, give me Cavs minus. I think the Cavs are good, and they better show it tonight. If I'm the Cavs,
especially after the way they got beaten like a drum in the first half of that game, they're now 80-39.
80-39 is ridiculous.
Down more points than they scored.
Do something similar tonight. Now you're not gonna be leading at halftime by 40, but
no.
But try to take a halftime lead of 20, and just assert yourself tonight to at least give yourself a fighting opportunity. Because if
season's on the line.
Yeah. And now with the way the Pacers are playing and with the Celtics basically done,
wide open,
NBA
baby.
champion Indiana Pacers, perhaps. We'll see. Do it again tomorrow. See y'all.